Howdy, y'all. Hello, all. Welcome. I just wanted to simply introduce myself. I definitely wanted to talk about a little bit of the recruiting for Oklahoma State University basketball, as well as some of the football stuff. If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, we are currently playing Southern Illinois in basketball, so we've got that going live as well. Luckily, we were able to take the lead going into the half. It was a pretty ugly first half, but defensively, we kind of carried the way there for a little while. We did hit our last 7 shots going into halftime, and we do have the lead, 33-28 coming out of half. It looks like Bryce Thompson's getting hot at the right time. Avery Anderson's trying to find his way, but again, I don't think we're going to have any issues. Started the second half with a really good play down low. Yeah, I think that's the big thing for basketball this season is they need to work off of the Twin Towers. I don't think that's something anybody can argue. When you're that talented and that big at the same time, you got to use it. And it's something that we're doing very well. There's a steal and a bucket. Avery Anderson, he might be finding his way now. Yeah, he looked kind of sloppy the other day, and Bryce Thompson kind of had a quiet 18 points. If you can have a quiet 18 points, that's exactly what it was. But, yeah, okay, so we're responding very well coming out of the half. When it comes to some of the recruiting stuff, if you caught my podcast earlier today, then obviously I covered some of it. But people like Connor Dow, right, the kid out of Broken Arrow, the first kid to go to a major D1 straight from Broken Arrow in 20 years. And the last time it was done, ironically enough, was by the head coach, the current head coach's brother, Chris Wallace. That was the last person to go from Broken Arrow straight to big-time Division I basketball. So it's got to be really, really cool for that kid, just from a general stance. His ability to get open and get shots up, it's going to be fun to watch. The question, I think, is how long of a leash does Boynton have, right? Because, you know, he really couldn't do a whole heck of a lot about last year. And for those who don't know, what happened last year is we got put on a probation because we had a kid get $300 from an assistant coach, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. And as soon as Mike Boynton found out about it, because it was an assistant coach that he had brought from South Carolina, but the instant he found out about it, he made the player, Jeffrey Carroll, give the $300 back. And that was that. So Mike Boynton got ahead of it, and he handled it the right way. He did the right thing. And then at the end of the day, we essentially turned ourselves into the NCAA. And we admitted fault in that $300 issue. And we also gave documentation as to what happened and how it was paid back, when it was paid back, and it still shot us in the foot. The probationary stuff we're on, the reason it's pertinent to today's conversation is because it's going to have to affect recruiting in some way. If you have a limitation on scholarships, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, and it's 3 in our situation, but it's going to change the way that you do your recruiting. And also, it might change how many people actually want to come. Because if you don't think that you're going to be able to play for anything major, then it's kind of hard to guarantee that you're going to end up on campus. So to have this level of a recruiting class and have this basketball team this talented, there's absolutely no reason that we should not be dancing in March. And there's absolutely no reason that, regardless of if we have that fifth-year option, which I know some of the players do. So we have 6 seniors, yeah, which kind of makes this 4-man class that's almost top 10 in the country even more fun to think about, because some of these 6 seniors have the capability to use the COVID 6th year or 5th year, essentially, for some of them. So regardless of how many seniors we have, we could have a couple back. And if we just picked up 4 big-time recruits, 4-star, 3-star, a former 5-star, I think that's an indication of how good Boynton does with recruiting, right? That's not a question. The question is, can he produce? Because Travis Ford was a pretty good recruiter. Travis Ford could get some people on campus. There's literally nothing like some of the times you got to watch LeBron Nash and Marcus Smart and Markel Brown. But did we win all the games we should have? We didn't. Like, we'd win major games. And those guys would do phenomenal things. But it didn't equal the wins column that we were looking for. And Travis Ford actually is having some success at St. Louis. Thomas DeZagua recently went to be an assistant coach for him. So I'm glad that he still kind of has that connection. And clearly, players liked him as well, or they wouldn't have come and been a part of these big recruiting classes. So he's going to be able to do some things. But is our four-man class indicative of Boynton maybe thinking that we're going to have a couple come back? Like, is it a mathematical thing where he's pretty sure that we're going to have some players come back, and then he's pretty sure we're going to have a 3 or 4 leave? I would say that's fair by the recruiting class, and it's a big time class. What are we doing? We're on defense. Cisse, Avery Anders picks up a foul. It's only his first foul of the day, so it's not that big of a deal. He did run into a little bit of foul trouble, as did Moussa Cisse the other night. So that'll be something to pay attention to. But let's get back to the recruiting stuff, right? And we'll kind of get into some of basketball as it progresses. The lowest rated recruit is Connor Dow, the kid from Broken Arrow. And again, he's got a hot hand. He can shoot very, very, very well. I made a comp earlier. I think it's very accurate. If you took Keaton Page, right, and Phil Forte at a 6'6" frame, they're possibly NBA players. Now, am I saying this kid's going to make the NBA per se? Not necessarily. But I'm telling you, this four-man class we have is absolutely loaded. Justin McBride is a cool story. He was a big four-star, five-star type of riser that ended up at Oak Hill Academy, which is the same school that produced the people like Rajon Rondo and Carmelo Anthony and Jerry Stackhouse. And he was good enough to be on that roster. He was good enough to start. He was good enough to have a lot of production. But then he went through a couple injuries. And the research I can find is during all his injuries and coming out of them, he didn't really handle his body and everything properly. And it cost him. And he ended up kind of raveling, not out of control by any stretch, but from a basketball perspective, he wasn't dedicating himself to the game. He wasn't putting the time in that he knew he should have. So he moved back to Texas, in Plano, Texas at the moment. And at 6'7", 210, he's got the size. But the beauty of it is he's got a shot. Like, he's got a good stroke. And he kind of went from a 4-star, 5-star riser to a 2-star. And he found a new fire. He found a new drive. He rededicated himself to the game of basketball, fell in love again, and now he's turned into a big-time prospect, right? But that's completely different than Connor Dow. Connor Dow, coming into his junior year, knew he was good enough to play Division I basketball. But he didn't have hardly any offers. When I say hardly, I mean zero. He had none. So the kid goes from 0 offers to playing with Team Griffin for summer ball. And that EYBY ball it's a big deal. And what it does is it gives players the opportunity to travel the country and face other massive players. You're not going to be able to get on one of those teams if you're just an average run-of-the-mill player. And if you watch the highlights of some of their travel tournaments, he was an integral part of what they were doing. His ability to shoot is impressive, and he's sneaky athletic. Like, he did an interview, and that was one of the things he brought up, was his athleticism is something that's very, very undervalued. And then you have a guy that was not really recruited to having one summer of massive production with Team Griffin to being recruited by a good amount of schools. So he did have choices. He did have opportunities, right? He could have went to San Diego State University or South Dakota State University. Could have went to Oral Roberts University. He has a desire to continuously get better that you don't see in young kids very often. You can usually tell, and this is a conversation I have to have with my son. He's getting recruited in baseball. And because he started getting recruited by big-time universities, he didn't get a big head, but I would say he got a little bit complacent, right? He got so fixated and focused on getting bigger, stronger, and having more power that I don't think that he necessarily thought he had to pay as much attention to his pitching. And that may be something that, you see in kids. The ones that are getting ready for college that think they've got it put together probably don't put in as much time as a kid like a Connor Dow, who feels like he has the same amount of talent, but he's undervalued on a consistent basis. So it's fun to get those diamond in the roughs type, just like football. And the kid happens to be an Okie from Broken Arrow. So, again, it's going to mean a little bit more. I don't care what nobody says. No matter how much you love the university, if you're not from Oklahoma, it's not exactly the same. And that's, I say, that goes for anywhere. If you're from Tennessee, the affinity you're going to have for Tennessee, or at least the respect and knowledge of, is kind of going to be a big deal. And it's always going to be something that sticks with you. So to get Connor Dow in Gallagher Arena to watch the kid shoot over people on a constant basis is going to be fun. Not to mention that the biggest get of all, the number 50 player in the United States of America, the number 6 center in the country, and the number 1 player in Oklahoma, Brandon Garrison, also got his papers filled out. So he's going to be stepping on campus. And he's somebody that, he's probably going to step in right away. Like, it's unless something catastrophic happens, God forbid, to Moussa Cisse, he gone. Same with Caleb Boone. Both of them, I think, are going to have the capability to at least be on the two-way contract side of the NBA. I think that's very fair. They've got the size. They've both got the athletic ability. Moussa Cisse, not only does he block shots, he contests shots. So even if he doesn't block you, he makes you alter what you're doing in the lane, and he makes you alter your decision-making. And Caleb Boone's starting to get a little bit more of that. Caleb Boone had an emphasis this year on rebounding. So it'll be fun to see the progression of this team. But again, the question remains, does Boynton get a free pass no matter what? I don't think so. I think this season is big for him. Now, because this good of a recruiting class, I don't know that he's got to finish top 3 in the Big 12. Because again, top 6, top 7 gets you in the dance in the Big 12. Not that that's what you're aiming for, but really, what is your primary objective? Is to get hot in March, to get hot at the right time going into the conference tournament. And if that can happen, you're going to give yourself a chance. You can be amazing all year. And then if you struggle mightily at the end of the season, when some teams are starting to figure it out, those are the teams that are dangerous. Envision Oregon State when they bounced us out of the tournament a couple years ago. I was excited about that game. And for them to have one of our former players, Maurice Kalu, I believe, it was fun to watch, but it was not fun to watch them beat us with that former player. And they were a team that was like a 500 squad for most of the season. They got hot in the Pac-12 tournament. They made a big run, and then they made a big run in the tournament. And, you could see partially it was just due to the cohesiveness of the team and athleticism. That's what this team has. We have a bunch of athleticism. Well, we had that last year too, but we're playing for something. And that Boynton reminds them pretty regularly that we're playing for something this year that we couldn't envision last year. There was no light at the end of the tunnel last season. It was what it was. You were playing. Unfortunately, a lot of people thought to put together better highlight films as opposed to playing within the system. But again, it's like they get an asterisk because it's hard to want to play within the system when at the end of the season, there is no reward. So, as humans, we're naturally, when you're that competitive and you have a little bit of ego that goes with that, you have to want to know you're that good, right? So, I don't know. It's pretty good. This was a closer game than I thought we were anticipating. But hopefully it pans out. While we've got a little bit of a lull here, Give some time. If you're an O State fan, or if you're a fan of anybody in the Big 12, including the new Big 12, BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, you should be a TCU fan, right? All day, every day. We need somebody in the CFP. Like, the Big 12 has to kind of get over some of the stigma that is attached to it, that OU is responsible for. Now, again, you can't talk bad on them because they made it to the CFP and even back in the BCS era to levels that we have not, right? So you got to give kudos, but at the same time, it's a lot different when you're winning. It's a whole lot different when you're winning. So when they end up laying eggs in these big games, then the negative connotation that evolves is this is a byproduct of X, Y, and Z. And this is how the Big 12 is. They're good, but they'll never be good enough to be competitive when it comes down to the CFP Final Four. And like them, love them, or hate them, OU is the one that left that black eye. They left the black eye in the BCS era and the Final Four era. So no matter who you're a fan of, if you're a Big 12 lover, you got to cheer for TCU. We got to get somebody in the dance that can do something. And they've got the offense to do it. And they clearly have the athletes. And the biggest thing, I think the most important thing in the Big 12 is they've stayed relatively healthy. Other than them losing their quarterback in the beginning of the season, Chad Morris, and then seeing the product that Max Duggan, the backup quarterback, has put on the field, he should be getting a lot more accolades. He should be getting a lot more love. We should be cheering for TCU because it's good for the conference, right? And what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Man, I really like this basketball team. I really do. Our defense is going to keep us in stuff. I was a little concerned that this year's defense was not going to be as good as last year's defense. That might not be the case. And then you got people like Caleb Asbury. He's popping threes, which is good to see because he was a little off the other night. Bryce Thompson looks pretty good. Avery Anderson is much more in control tonight than he was the other night. So indications are good. Asbury with a block. Hey, we're going to be doing that a lot. That's for sure. A lot of blocks. Okay. Well, before we skedaddle on out of here, I just wanted to, again, introduce myself to everybody. There's obviously a decent chunk of subscribers already on, and I wanted to basically say hi. And thank you for riding with Locked On Pokes. Thank you for jumping on the new platform of Locked On Oklahoma State. And just so everybody knows, I did used to watch Linda Gottfried. So there was some inspiration involved into me getting into this. And so I want to say thank you to basically her and the people before her that got this Locked On Poke stuff going. The reason I changed the name is the poke choke thing. I can't stand it. But it's accurate. Like, it's 100% fair. And the TCU game showed it, and the last few games have kind of showed it. I hate the negative vibe that comes with the poke choke thing. I like Go Pokes, right? I'm all about it. But just the word in and of itself, I associate it with some negativity. So I'm proud to be able to represent Oklahoma State University. And if you guys have any questions, if there's anything that you guys want to see this channel kind of cover a little bit more, I greatly appreciate the input, guys. So jump in the comments. I'm here for whatever, whenever, however. Okay, so let's finish this off. Another big-time get, right? If you watch the film on Jamiron Keller, I was going to do a comp of like a Byron Eaton mixed with a John Lucas. But I decided to go big. A technical foul from Chris Harris on a breakaway. That seems slightly unnecessary. Yeah, it's okay. Youth. We have youth all over. But this kid, 6'1", 190 from Killeen, Texas. I went bold. We were able to keep this kid, right? Okay, so he's a 3-star. but he's also the 154th player in the United States of America. So he's just shy, right? He's ranked at number 19, number 20 combo guard in the United States. And one of the reasons that he came to OSU is because it felt like home. That seems to be something that's fairly common all the way around. I love Boynton, but we've got to produce this season. If you can steal kids that had offers from KU and Florida and Houston and Arkansas and LSU and Texas, Texas A&M and Texas Tech and Arizona State University and North Texas, ORU, Sam Houston State. Speaking of OU, thanks for ruining the opening day undefeated Big 12 record, boomers. Anywho, guys, I love what I do. And just so y'all know, I research this stuff for hours every day just to make sure I'm giving the maximum effort into the content that we're putting on this channel. It means the world to me to have this. It means the world to me to have a little bit of a following going. The podcast numbers are looking really good. So I hope we can obviously continue to grow together. I want to make sure that I'm connected with the entirety of the fan base in every avenue physically possible. So help me grow this thing. It's going to be a fun ride. We're going to have things that continuously get better on a week to week basis. So as we get on the rise of this thing, I just wanted to introduce myself, stop by, say thank you to everybody, and let you all know that whether it's football, basketball, baseball, track, cross country, equestrian, I literally get into almost anything. Now, granted, Locked On Oklahoma State, we're gonna stick with what typically pays the bills, and what pays the bills all the way around the circle, everywhere you go, football, and then basketball. My affinity for baseball and softball and what we have going on in soccer and women's basketball, that's all stuff that, I think our affinity for is going to help us progress and continue to get the word out there. All this is about. The only reason that I do this is to help get the word out about Oklahoma State University, because Bob Bowlesby did an atrocious job of marketing the Big 12. So it comes on us as a fan base to spread the word. Now, obviously, winning and success is massively beneficial because people want to see logos, right? And people want to know that you have a logo too. And we do. And I think that we do not get the respect nationally that we deserve. But again, just like OU kind of failing in the Final Fours, BCS type stuff, putting a bad black eye. The fact that we haven't won as many, Big 12 titles as our talent has been capable of, and how many times we've just got close to the mountaintop, our fingertips on the top, and then fell off at the end. This is all stuff that you can work through if you have the ability to convey all of the positives. Who cares about the negatives? Let's focus on the positives. But at the same time, right, we are going to keep it 100% real. So if there's some complete insanity that needs to be covered, whether it be on players, coaches, staff, ADs, doesn't matter. Luckily, we're blessed with a phenomenal AD and a phenomenal president, and we've got coaches that care about the Cowboy culture, and this Cowboy culture thing has become infectious in every single sport. So now every single sport recruits in a uniform type of way. It's really a good time to be a Cowboy fan. Hopefully we get some stuff scored away in football because, we can't let the season spiral out of control. But anywho, I will be willing to do this whenever. I'll cover a little bit of everything. Obviously, we're going to focus quite a bit on football and basketball, but this is your one-stop shop. If you want to win the coffee talk, the locker talk, the office talk, whatever it is, this is going to be the best avenue for us collectively to grow and to be that person and to be that dude that wins those conversations and to be the lady that makes dudes look ridiculous. It's all about facts. It's all about stats. It's all about conviction, in my opinion. And if you love something, it's hard to fail. You know, you've always heard when you get a job that you love, it doesn't feel like a job. That is this for me. I'm the guy that I was studying Oklahoma State University stats daily, all day, in almost every single sport, regardless, at work. And now I get to be that guy. The only difference is now I just write it all down, because when I write it all down, it commits to memory. And if it commits to memory, it allows the show to go a little smoother, obviously. So, again, appreciate everybody. If you have anything to say, please comment. Let's grow this thing together. The comments, the likes, the shares, the constructive criticism. Whatever it is, I need to be able to grow with you guys. With your help, we're going to get this channel big time. So hop on the train while it's getting started, because we're only going to grow. We're only going to learn more. We're only going to get better. Catch the show tomorrow. Obviously, I'll be doing this, and I'll talk a little bit more about what's going on in basketball, do some more football updates. We're going to get our picks in, as well as do a score prediction on the Iowa State game. We'll talk about the blackout a little bit. We'll cover some of the recruiting in softball. That is massive. Guys, recruiting all around the board right now is insane. Wrestling recruiting is phenomenal. Softball recruiting is phenomenal. Basketball recruiting is darn near phenomenal. It's going well at all turns. Football, we have some questions. Football, we have some things to talk about. Hopefully, the way we answer against Iowa State puts a lot of things to bed, puts a lot of things to rest. We have to answer. We have to answer in a big way. Hopefully, we do. Hopefully, we put a black eye on that team and we put a whooping on as many people as we physically possibly can, regardless of youth, regardless of injuries, regardless of depth chart. We have to send a message with this one. So we'll dive in tomorrow a little bit further and see maybe where we can find some areas to exploit. And again, get our picks in, all that fun jazz. So God bless. I love you all. Go Pokes. I will see you all tomorrow.